Who's the one that you've had on the last few weeks? I can't remember her name. She's just started like sort of popping up on Twitter and stuff. She knows her onions. I can't remember her name.
Don't know.
She was talking about Salah and Beckham, and she basically said, like, Beckham got the assist. Someone said, well, Beckham gets all the assists, and she said, well, Salah's got 3 fewer assists than Beckham. Can't remember the name.
It's funny, like players in the 90s that we didn't really use stats to sort of evaluate.
Yeah.
I always would love to go back and like
Zidane?
players like Ginola, like I don't necessarily think. I think he was like really good to watch, but I don't necessarily think he was really good.
Messi and Ronaldo changed that, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
But just turned it into like a numbers game.
Yeah, there was like. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm Joe Rimmer, your host, joined today, and just joined by Paul Gorst. How are we, Paul?
Good, yeah, it's been a busy week. I can't believe we're only on Friday, to be honest, but we are on the home stretch towards Christmas.
We are hurtling towards Christmas.
Yeah, and the big game on Sunday. Feels like a very big game, doesn't it? We're going to get into it, but yeah, the chance to spend Christmas Day at the top of the tree, as they say, is a big opportunity for Liverpool.
It's a huge opportunity. First of all, an apology. We are about, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late even. No excuse, really. We're just nattering, really, and kind of forgot about the time. So if you've been sitting there, I'm really sorry, Ian McCartney. We are trying to jog on, so sorry about that.
We can blame Ian Kroll, the producer.
Yeah, we could blame Ian. He can't defend himself.
Can't say anything, can he?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't even get invited to Sport Night Out, which you organised.
That's my fault. Yeah. No, I do apologise for that.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that.
I like these one-on-one podcasts, by the way. They're more intimate, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is nice, isn't it?
Well, we don't have to listen to Doyle, do we?
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah,
Liverpool won't win.
Yeah. Some more positivity. Anyway, a big shout out to talking of positivity. A big shout out to our sponsors, NordVPN. Thank you, Nord, and Merry Christmas to everyone at Nord. For sponsoring us throughout the year and throughout the season, and to get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. You know the score by now. Our link gives you 4 months on a 2-year plan. There's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. Regular listeners will probably be able to say that off by heart by now.
I know you say that in your sleep.
I still read it off the thing, but
to get your best discounts off NordVPN.
If you are listening, if you're watching on YouTube, drop us a question, give us a thumbs up, press the bell to subscribe. I'll have a look at the questions as we continue throughout the pod. They're always very welcome, as are stars and various reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to drop me an email, I've got one that I'll read out shortly, but to give any feedback, ask any questions, anything you like. My email address is joe.river@reachplc.com. Always happy to discuss things on the pod, so please drop me a line, and when I'm on the pod hosting, I will get.
Do you get many queries?
Yeah, I've got one. We'll get to one straight away from Shabs Noor. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but thank you very much for your email. Just something to discuss for the pod later. He says he's a bit concerned by Liverpool's away form. I know we haven't lost away from home all season, but we're giving away a whole heap of chances. And he says Palace, Wolves, Newcastle, Southampton, prime examples, and Sunday is a big game. I don't disagree. I think it would be weird if you weren't giving away chances away from home. I just think that's part of playing away from home. You have to sort of play the percentages a bit more.
Strength of the Premier League, isn't it? You know, every club in the Premier League has got money now, so they're able to go and spend 40 million on players. You know, that wasn't always the case for these sorts of Fulhams and Newcastle. Certainly, we know why they have money, but yeah, clubs have got money, and there's only so many good players to go about. You know, the top teams can't hoard them all. So look at the squads that are right across the Premier League now. It's probably as strong as it's ever been, save for maybe 2 or 3 exceptions, maybe possibly Ipswich, certainly Southampton. So I just think every club has got the money to get in good players. So you have to accept that Liverpool aren't operating in a vacuum. Other teams will create chances, and at home they will look to turn the screw a little bit. So you have to accept that teams are going to create chances. And I think Liverpool were poor at Newcastle, but generally I think they've been okay away from home, haven't they? Which still needs to be on Sunday.
And I think as well, Liverpool try to win games away from home, which is, lots of teams come to Anfield and sit in, don't they? So you don't necessarily see them create a shed load of chances, whereas when Liverpool go away from home, they will come out, which means home teams will get opportunities to score. I think what is most encouraging is that, touch wood, quite often they don't get beat. So I think Sunday we'll discuss it in depth shortly, but I think there will be goals, there will be big chances. Tottenham, Liverpool are going to have to live dangerously because that's part of going to these big teams and trying to win games. So I'm not too worried about it, and I'm fully convinced. And this was something we will discuss later. I'm fully convinced in Slot. I think he's a very, very adept manager, and he knows when to take chances. And funny enough, personally, I actually think the last two games, Newcastle and Fulham, we've learnt more about this Liverpool team, and I'm more convinced that they could win the title now than I was before those games. And that might sound weird considering they've dropped 4 points, but
yeah,
I've said to you before, I thought Newcastle, considering how comprehensively Newcastle outplayed Liverpool in the first half, the way Liverpool got back into the game and went through the gears in the second half and should have won that game, but for a goalkeeper error, which can happen, and I don't particularly blame Kelleher that much. Those things happen, but the way they penned Newcastle back into their own third and started creating opportunities, I thought was reminiscent of watching any big team. You watch Man City any time other than the last 10 or 15 games, and that's what they did to teams. They would pen them back, and you'd think it's only a matter of time, and that's what Liverpool did to Newcastle. And then Fulham, to go a man down and play like they're the man more was very impressive. And the way Slot went about his business in that game, again, I thought was pretty impressive. So
yeah, it was really good, managing, I guess. We not like to be referred to as the head coach, doesn't he? But the way he sort of chopped to a back three, sort of moved Alexander-Arnold in field a little bit more, and didn't look to sit in and try and nick an equaliser at 1-1, try and get a 1-1 draw. Basically, we're down to 10, but tough. This is Liverpool and we have to go for it. And they certainly did, and they were very unfortunate not to win the game. And I totally agree with you on the Fulham point. Certainly coming away from it thinking Liverpool's title credentials have only been enhanced because of the resilience that they showed, the quality, the energy, and refusal to accept the fate. They were 1-0 down and they had a man down after 17 minutes, and they should have won really. Had it not been for a brilliant block by Anthony Robinson on Van Dijk and that block from Jota at the end, and Liverpool were knocking on the door, weren't they? And certainly the Fulham game. Newcastle can happen. You can go to Newcastle and get sort of swept up in the. It's a bit similar to Anfield, really, almost like Anfield Light in the way the crowd get sort of take the players on a journey, which in turn increases performance levels. It's very similar there, and that's what happened in the first half. And Liverpool stayed in it. A much changed Liverpool without Alisson, without Konate, without Trent until they come on. And again, you could be coming away from that thinking Liverpool could have won it had it not been for a rare Kelleher mistake. So, I get your point, and certainly with Fulham in particular, I would agree.
Yeah, I think as much as from a Liverpool perspective, you look at both of those games and think, 4 points there dropped. I also think that if you're Chelsea, Arsenal, maybe not so much City at the moment, but certainly Chelsea and Arsenal, you would have been looking at both of those games thinking, how did they manage to avoid defeat in either of them? And that must chip away psychologically at you if you're a fellow title challenger. So
certainly with Fulham, when Andy Robertson gets sent off. Yeah. Getting confused there with Andy Robertson and Andy Robertson. Yeah. When Andy Robertson gets sent off after 17 minutes and Liverpool are already a goal down, Chelsea must have been rubbing their hands thinking, this is the day we can make big strides here. Yeah. And okay, Liverpool have dropped points, but the manner in which they did it, would have been heartening for Slot. And it's gone from looking incredibly optimistic to being chopped away by the fact that 2 draws with the postponement of the derby in between. So Chelsea are right on the coattails now, and Liverpool might actually be second going into the game on Sunday. But like you say, that's only if you're sort of looking at the results. I think the performance against Fulham, especially, probably says that Liverpool are in this for the long haul.
Yep, certainly agreed. We will discuss more of that later. I wanted to start this podcast with some comments from Trent, which I thought were quite revealing. He spoke to Men in Blazers, American YouTube channel this week, answered various questions about different things, and I thought it was quite a creative way of asking him about his future without directly asking him, because he's been quite public, hasn't he, about not wanting to discuss the contract negotiations in public whilst they continue. But they asked him about what his ambitions are for the future, and this is what he said. Of course, winning more trophies, but I think on a personal level, there's a legacy, building a legacy. That is something that is important, just spoken about in the highest regard, especially after you've finished playing. So I think in 10 or 15 years, if I'm spoken about as one of the best right backs or the best right back, then that is what I'm playing for now, I think, and using that as motivation. And I thought, Gorst, I don't know whether you agree, but I thought that was probably the most revealing thing Trent has said about his future in the last 6 months or so. And to me, and you might disagree, this is only my opinion, but that was probably for me the clearest hint that I think Trent sees his future away from Liverpool. I know Jamie Carragher has written something similar in his Telegraph column this morning, but he avoided talking about Liverpool legacy and very much talked about Trent the player. And I think Real Madrid is a place where players go to cement their individual legacy.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. It's a little bit ambiguous, because does he mean cementing his legacy as a Liverpool great? He's already one of those at the age of 26, having won all the trophies that he has won, Champions League, Premier League. Was he talking about sort of finishing that further and moving up the rankings of the all-time greats at Liverpool? Or was he talking about being an individual and the way of sort of getting your reputation established as one of the greats of the sort of modern game would be to be a brilliant player for Real Madrid for X number of years, where he could go there, sign a 5-year deal and win three of the next 5 Champions Leagues. Could easily happen, couldn't it? So it all depends on how you viewed that particular comment, and I thought he was wise not to sort of say either way, but it does feel to me, and it has for a few weeks now at least, that it's becoming increasingly likely that he's the one who is set for pastures new. And I think if Salah and Van Dijk leave, I think the direction of anger and frustration will be aimed at the club from the supporters. I think if Trent leaves, I think it will be aimed squarely at the player. Whether that's fair or not, we can have a debate about it, but he's the homegrown lad, and it's always seen as like a, if you support Liverpool and you've grown up playing for Liverpool, why would you want to go anywhere else? You've got an air thinking that you're going to go somewhere else. But it's Steve McManaman all over again, isn't it? And I only found out today, actually, when I read Carragher's column. I totally forgot. Maybe I was a bit too young, but that got announced. McManaman going to Real Madrid got announced sort of mid-season. And then he carried on playing the season for Liverpool with that hanging over him. Could you imagine that happening with Trent now? How much that'd be spoken about? And, we'd discuss it. Every sort of pass would be analysed to the nth degree. Is his heart still in it? All that sort of stuff. So, if he is going to move, and like I say, I'm becoming sort of increasingly resigned to that, then at least wait until the end of the season to announce that, because I do think there will be a backlash coming if that does transpire, and how much it undoes what he's already achieved will be obviously subject for debate.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about it all a little bit, because on one hand I think I don't really blame him, and I think, like you say, I think the he will cop for the stick if he leaves, whereas the other two it will be the club. And I think the club deserve probably more criticism for Trent and allowing this situation to transpire with Trent, who is in his prime. You can understand why they haven't given new contracts to Van Dijk and Salah, because they are in their 30s, and Liverpool probably weren't going to be sure where they were at, and there's definitely debates to be had over money and years and contract length. Whereas Trent seems a bit more straightforward in terms of, surely Liverpool wouldn't mind making him one of the best, if not the best paid player at the club. They'd want him there for the rest of his career. They'd want to reward him for what he's done. His levels have always remained, you can debate his defensive abilities, but his levels have always remained high. He's vice captain. So I just think the club, the fact that they've let this happen, and I know there's been flux in terms of manager, director of football, but they've let this happen 2 years out, 3 years out, and not dealt with this is pretty poor, really. And I think because of the focus on Van Dijk and Salah, they've got away with a lot of criticism and the fact they're doing so well on the pitch. So I don't necessarily blame Trent that much, and I can understand why he, as a player, would look at Real Madrid and go, well, Bellingham's there. It's a glamorous place. You are guaranteed, even if they had a bad year, you're guaranteed to almost get back into the title or Champions League race soon afterwards. And I think we look at it through a Liverpool lens, and why wouldn't you go? But why wouldn't you want to go and live in Madrid? Steve McManaman, I always think is one of the most underappreciated English players of all time. Yeah. He won 2 Champions Leagues. All right, he didn't play every single minute of every game, but I think if you read anything from any player that played around them with him, they will talk about his ability, the fact that he was such a clever player, his contribution to that Real Madrid team. And he didn't necessarily play a lot for England, did he, after he left for Real Madrid? And I think that probably comes into it a little bit at that time. Beckham was like the poster boy. So I don't necessarily think he gets the credit he deserves, but we should celebrate the fact that McManaman learned a different language, played in a different place. Not many English players do it, and I think it's always been a problem for English players. It just isn't nice when it happens to one of your own, and Trent going and moving to Real Madrid won't be nice for Liverpool, but I can understand from his point of view why he'd want to do it. The biggest issue is it's for free.
100%. That is the biggest issue. And I spoke to McManaman just before the Real Madrid game as part of a preview piece, and I was asking, what's it actually like there in terms of the scrutiny that's on you? Because we know about AS and marketing and all that, and it's the stuff of legend. But is it kind of as intense as they say? And he said it is. It's not exaggerated. There is papers to fill, football papers every day. Mm-hmm. So inevitably everything gets discussed and debated, and a lot of harsh words are written and reported when Real Madrid don't win, because they're just expected to win every week. So that will be something that Alexander-Arnold will have to contend with if he does move. But on the flip side, almost to play devil's advocate a little bit, I wonder whether it's sort of out of sight, out of mind in terms of an English football audience, where his defensive shortcomings, exaggerated or not, aren't getting discussed and debated. He's not got Gary Neville sort of digging him out every single time that a winger goes by him.
Still makes me laugh.
And we'll see more of the good stuff. We'll see the passes, the assists, the free kicks, whatever it may be. And we'll see him in the Champions League, and he inevitably would be a success because he's a brilliant player. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why it would appeal to him. Just like you say, the fact that Liverpool would get nothing for him for leaving would be a bit of pill to swallow for Liverpool because of the model of the club. Alexander-Arnold is an 80, 90, £100 million player at least, and Liverpool would be getting nothing for him. But there's a debate to be had over the importance of fullbacks in the Arne-Slot system. We've spoken a lot about Robertson and Tsimikas, and they've chopped and changed, and there hasn't been too much of a difference. And there's talk of Robertson actually being maybe a little bit on the wane at the moment. So I just think he's a little bit out of sorts. But Trent, until recently, hasn't been playing the sort of stuff that he was doing regularly under Klopp either, has he? So I think that has been a tweak by Slot in the fullback areas. So do they need someone as integral there? Do they need someone on £300,000 a week at right back? There's a debate to be had there, but I do think just losing him for nothing would be a hammer blow for Liverpool.
Yeah, and I think it's what it says as well, doesn't it? Whenever you lose a good player, whenever they leave, it sort of chips away almost at the club's PR in terms of like other players going, well, they're not a destination club, they're a step on the ladder club, and Liverpool don't want to be that. So I think it would be a hammer blow. and I saw Carragher again said in that Telegraph column why, his advice would be sign a deal, put a bit of a buyout clause in there, and make the decision further down the line. I think probably if he is going to leave, Trent would say, well, Real Madrid might well say this is your opportunity, and we're not going to come and pay big money for you, like you say.
Yeah, we did it with Mbappe, didn't we?
Yeah. So why would they do it for Trent? But we will have to see. But like you say, I've got this gut feeling that Trent moves on. I kind of feel like he's playing a very careful PR game right now, and this whole I don't want to play it out in public is a very nice way of saying I don't want to be caught saying I love this club.
Yeah.
Whereas Gerrard, I always remember with Gerrard, do you remember after they won the Champions League and he said, how could I leave this club now? And then a month later he was thinking about Chelsea, and it didn't look good, did it? Whereas I think now
but he got caught up in the emotion of that night, didn't he? And that was understandable. And obviously he'd asked the question as a journalist, I think it was Sky Sports, wasn't it? And that's what he said. Yeah. What I do find interesting is Alexander-Arnold, we were told in the summer that very desperate to keep everything respectful in-house, sort of didn't want to make it a big issue every week. And as a result, when it's been sort of non-mandatory public appearances and media dealings and stuff, I think there's been a little gentle, don't ask about the contract situation. And I know that to be a fact. And as a result, it's why we haven't really heard too much from Alexander-Arnold on this stuff, and why, as a result, we're reading between the lines on certain answers. Yeah, certainly, and that will continue for all of them until they do either depart or stay. I'm going to throw something at your ear that's in the comments, and it's a bit of a random one, but is recent Alphonso Davies news something we can assume is as a result of the Trent contract denials? I mean, plays on the other side, doesn't he? Yeah. So I saw this earlier on Twitter, and it very much strikes me as an agent trying to get his player the best deal, but I don't know, do you think Liverpool would have a nibble on that? I couldn't believe he was only 24, because he feels like he's been around for years and years, and maybe like 4 years ago he was probably the best left back in the world with Andy Robertson. Obviously starred in that Bayern Munich side that won the Champions League in 2020, and that sort of weird sort of tournament they had in Portugal when it all sort of resumed. I remember him being brilliant in that. I think maybe he would fall into the category of perhaps wages being a bit of an issue. Become an auction, wouldn't it? Yeah, especially with Robertson and Tsimikas already there. They'd have to move at least one of those out, and I do think there is a debate to be had there at left back, but I think Liverpool would look to do something a bit Robertson-esque again in terms of plucking someone from further down the league who they feel has got potential to grow and get better. I don't think they're going to be getting someone in of the profile of Alphonso Davies, obviously starting at Bayern Munich and whatever else. So yeah, I think left back probably on the agenda for the summer, whether that's moving Tsimikas and or Robertson, probably only the one I'd guess, but I just couldn't see Davies coming in. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe it's a different type of recruitment now at Liverpool. We don't really know yet, do we? No. I think still. I think there's a lot of questions, and we don't know what types of player Slot likes to work with either, do we? So well, I wouldn't have guessed. If you asked me at the start of June when Slot and Hughes officially started, I wouldn't have thought that they'd go and get Federico Chiesa at the end of August. No. So he was the sort of rumour that Liverpool they'd previously been linked with, that you could almost dismiss out of hand without even checking, isn't it? I mean, so maybe they'd look at Alphonso Davies as a bit of an opportunity. I don't know, but surely if his agent's getting him around big clubs like Liverpool, obviously he's got Bayern, Real Madrid, others, then surely we're talking huge wages, and whether Liverpool would want to upset the whole structure to put a left back on huge wages when they're not willing to do that with a right back or a Salah or a Van Dijk. So be very interesting. Let's talk Spurs. I said to you in the office before, Gorst, what do you reckon on Sunday? Do you think they'll beat Spurs? And you very confidently just said, yeah, they will. What makes you so confident? I mean, they're just a crazy team, aren't they? Spurs. I think they've scored the most, have they? And I got told the stat the other day that they've conceded the second fewest, which I was surprised about, really. What? In the league? I'm sure it was something along those lines. It might be wrong there. I might have misheard it, but it was surprising. But when you see some of the stuff that they're doing. I watched them last night against Manchester United, and they're absolutely cruising at 3-0.
I mean, they haven't conceded. They've conceded 19, which is the third fewest.
Right. So
you're not far.
It's not that bad, is it, really? But they've just got this commitment, haven't they, to sort of, flying forward at every opportunity. And they've got really good players. Maddison, I think, is a really good player. Kulusevski is brilliant. I don't really know why he doesn't get spoken about more, really. Son is having a bit of an indifferent season, really, but we know, he's a quality player. Dominic Solanke's leading the line. So they've got a little bit of a quartet there who can cause any team problems. And I've seen them against Man City, and they were brilliant. Unbelievable performance. I've seen them against Manchester United, and they were great there as well. They were really good against Villa, was it? Seen them against West Ham when they sort of fought back. So, attacking-wise, they're a team that Liverpool have to, not fear, but they have to respect and accept that this team might create chances at home. But some of the stuff they do at the back is crazy. Like Fraser Forster last night with 2 comedy errors, really. And Slot was saying before, when they concede the first goal playing out from the back, then everyone shouts at the telly, why don't they just go along with it? And then they try to go along with it and concede that way. And I just think some of the stuff they do defensively lends itself well to a team who press as well as Liverpool. So I think there will be chances for Liverpool to have there. And it's just a case of how much they can sort of keep a lid on Spurs, because we know that they're going to create chances. Yeah,
I feel like I've been burned by visits to Spurs going back years. They lost to them in the 2008-9 season. I always remember them losing. Aaron Lennon scored. Yeah. I think they took the lead that day. They lost to them late on in the 2002 season when they finished second. I always remember that kind of knocking them out the race for the title. They lost 4-0 to them, didn't they? Early doors under Kenny's first full season.
2012 was it?
Yeah, when a couple of players got sent off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they also lost to them the season prior to that. They lost opening day as well. In Benitez's following season after. So I always have this real fear of going to Spurs. Like, it's a really difficult place, but I find them this season. I said to you before, didn't I? I think Liverpool could be 2-0 up, and I wouldn't feel that confident that they would keep it. But they could be 2-0 down, and I wouldn't feel that worried we wouldn't get back into it. And I think they've just been that sort of team this year, Spurs, where, I mean, I was surprised by that, just looking at the amount of goals they've conceded. But I think maybe they've conceded more lately because they've had injuries at the back. Mickey van der Ven's been injured, hasn't he? Christian Romero.
That's big for Liverpool, having those 2 out.
Sachin Nakrani said, is Paul looking forward to speaking to Virgil van Dijk in the Tottenham Hotspur mix zone on Sunday? And what's been his favourite mix zone chat with Van Dijk so far this season? The big man always stops, doesn't he?
Yeah, certainly the ones at Anfield seem to merge into one. Can't really think of whenever I've spoke to him away from home. I'll tell Sasha and I'll get back to him on that one.
Yeah. But going back to Spurs, I feel like this is a big test of Slot's management. I feel like a good manager, and I know Pep's a good manager and they got beat 4-0, but I feel like a good manager would just work Spurs out and do a bit of a number on them. And I feel like I said to you earlier tonight that looking back at the game at Old Trafford, when that had the potential to be quite an emotional game, Liverpool got sucked into an emotional game last season a few times with United, and it felt like a chance for United to sort of and Ten Hag to get one over on Liverpool early doors in Slot's reign, and they just went there, took the emotion out of it, and played like a far superior, which they are, team, and obviously won the day. And Roy Hodgson has joined the chat, which is slightly worrying.
Why did you sign Christian Poulsen, Roy?
Yeah. He said, I'm late to the party. What's the deal with Trent? What hints? Roy, we can't do the whole start of the pod again. Sorry, Roy, you are late to the party. Just start the video again. Yeah, just pull it back. Listen back to it, Ian Kroll saying. But yeah, I feel like Slot could do a number on Spurs if he gets his tactics right, because I feel like they're there to be exposed.
Yeah.
But they are going to be so dangerous. Son always seems to score against Liverpool, and whether Liverpool, again, Spurs is a good stadium, isn't it? Whether they're really up for it, they've had a good week in terms of, obviously the result against United, and yeah, I think Chelsea passed that test pretty well a couple of weeks ago, and Liverpool now need to pass that test. It'll really convince me that they are title contenders if they do that.
100%, yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Yeah, so Liverpool, I mean, the game there last season was a sort of unique, crazy game that you can't really learn anything from in terms of taking it into this one. But Liverpool went there the season before when they were having a bit of a tough time generally in that season, and they won. Was it 2-0 or 2-1? Mo Salah scores twice, and I think it's the last game before the World Cup. The year before was a really tough one. Robertson gets sent off. I think it was a 2-2 draw. Firmino scores the winner there this season in the league. They're always tight, aren't they? They're always close. But yeah, I think it'll be a real sort of statement just at a time when Liverpool are on the back of a couple of draws. That Merseyside derby postponement has allowed Chelsea to close the gap, and Liverpool could even be second going into that game. And symbolically, it's always held up as a big thing, isn't it? Who's top of Christmas? So I think just to have that would be a big thing to say for a few days, and then you obviously get into your Boxing Day fixtures. But yeah, it's a case of how much can Liverpool sort of dampen the Tottenham fire. And I think Gravenberch and McAllister are going to be massive for it. As a result, I think they've got to get about the pitch and sort of close those spaces where Tottenham like to operate, certainly off that left-hand side, or right-hand side rather, with Kulusevski. Like I said before, I just think he's a brilliant player. Maddison pulling strings. That'll be where Tottenham will look to get a lot of joy, because I imagine, do you think Robertson's going to come in? We'll come on to the team, but Robertson over Tsimikas, just in a little bit of a off the pace the last few weeks. I think they will look to exploit that. But Liverpool have got to impose their own game on them as well, and I think with the front line, I expect Jota to start in place of Nunes. Nunes playing 90 the other night was a little bit of an indication for me on that one. I think with Salah, possibly Diaz or Gakpo on the left, and then Jota through the middle, I think Liverpool have enough there to cause a patched up Spurs defence problems. No Van der Ven, no Romero. Is it Dragusin and Ben Davis, I guess?
It's been Archie Gray, hasn't it?
Archie Gray, yeah. I mean, I think he'll play Archie Gray in the Premier League. I'm not sure. Yeah. But, I mean, you look at United, they were awful last night, really, in the main, and they've still managed to score 3. Mm-hmm. So, I think Liverpool, if they can sort of implement that press, as well as we know that they can, I think there will be opportunities for them.
Yeah, Barry McLaughlin says, are you concerned about a drop-off in performances since the City game? Each game feels a real struggle currently after 2 incredibly high-tempo performances against Madrid and City.
Yeah, I think that week took a lot out of Liverpool, didn't it, emotionally? It took a lot out of them physically, but also...
They lost 2 key players as well.
Yeah. Konate, obviously, and Bradley. And McAllister was obviously gets suspended because of the yellow card at Newcastle, doesn't he? And I think he'll be a good one to have back on Sunday, because he doesn't really play much, has he? Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. But also, I think Newcastle away at any point of the season would always be difficult, so I wouldn't sort of be too critical of that result. Maybe performance first half wasn't up to it, but at some stage you're not going to be firing on all cylinders. But yeah, I do think that week took a lot out of Liverpool, certainly physically, but fans and the players sort of almost got swept up in an incredible few days, didn't they? And riding the crest of a wave. The postponements has taken the momentum away a little bit as well. So yeah, tomorrow would be a good one to, or Sunday rather, would be a good one to put in a proper performance full of energy, because you look at the players you left at home on Wednesday night. No Salah, Diaz, Szoboszlai, Alisson, Gravenberch. Players who will be starting on Sunday. So with a full week of rest, or rather 8 days of rest, they should come flying out the traps.
Yeah, I always thought this period of the season was going to be a real test. I don't necessarily think that anyone really should have expected Liverpool to come through it winning every game, and I think a draw away at Newcastle, again, in context of the game, It would have been nice to have won because of the goalkeeping error, but in general, I mean, they beat Arsenal there.
Yeah.
They drew Man
with
City. You know, they're a very good team at home, and they seem to raise their game against the bigger sides as well. I think they, like you said before, they play on the emotion, and they have some good attacking players that cause Liverpool problems. So I didn't see that. I just thought that was an all right point, you know, especially considering the first half, and then the Fulham game. You just look at the circumstances, don't you? And again, Fulham are a team that have equipped themselves well against some of the better teams this season.
Drew with Arsenal a week earlier, didn't he? With Arsenal had 11 men for that one.
So I just think that the derby being called off was a blow, just because of the momentum. Because I still think it would have been better to play that game at 12:30 than it will be in the evening.
Yeah. At the time, though, we weren't saying that. You know, you can make a case either way, but I think we were on the side of it being a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily look at this period. I suppose it'll depend what's come over the next 3 or 4 games, whether you look at it as a negative. But I think it could be, you could look at it as points gained. I don't necessarily think we're going to look at a season where teams have got to hit those heights where they challenge City and win all of these games. You know, they're going to be draws.
Yeah.
There's going to be drop points. Yeah. You know, Chelsea are in real rich reign of form now, but I think they could drop away and have a few games where they sort of draw or drop points. So I think I don't necessarily think it should be viewed as a negative, these last couple of games.
Yeah, certainly the Fulham one. Yeah. Newcastle could have been so much different if Kelleher just catches that, but you know, mistakes happen. Don't want to rake him over the coals too much because of how good he's been. But I think Sunday is a big one for shaping Liverpool's festive period, because you can imagine Leicester at home on Boxing Day should, all being well, relatively straightforward win, and then West Ham aren't having a great season, are they? And London Stadium isn't known as a particularly sort of intimidating place to go. So if Liverpool handle the business there as well, it all sort of... Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but Sunday, win that one, and then they go and do what they should do for the rest of that period. You're coming out of it and heading into the new year thinking they're in a really strong position.
Absolutely agree. I mean, Sunday is the key one for me. Obviously, they've got United at home early January, but I almost think those types of home games can look after themselves because the fans will know how important it is and the players. So I think it's a really good test for them. I think Tottenham are very dangerous, but I don't look at this period as a negative. I think it can be looked at as a positive. The one worry for me, and you talked about this earlier, with Chelsea having the chance to go ahead of Liverpool, albeit I think it will be a very tough game for them at Everton, but Chelsea do have that chance to go ahead, and I think you'll start finding those quite annoying people who lazily go, Liverpool were 9 points ahead, and they'll never look at the context, and there's a game in hand, and those types of things. They will just go, Liverpool dropped a 9 point lead, they're bottling it, and those types of things have been thrown at Arsenal, and I don't necessarily think they've coped as well, and I think they've been thrown at Liverpool in the past, and they haven't coped that well with them. So I think the good thing about this Liverpool team is they've got a manager who seems to keep everyone at a level, which they're just all business, aren't they? You know, everything he does is all business. So I think he could do a real job on Tottenham on Sunday if he gets his tactics right, and be interesting.
You mentioned that United game before, and it was a perfect example of Liverpool's 2 most recent visits there. Up until that game was obviously March and April under Klopp, and they got suckered into the emotion, and they got basically dragged into United's narrative, didn't they, of crazy games and wild sort of, that Fernandes goal sort of out the blue, and he just got sucker punched and really lulled into it. But Slot's team went there and didn't. They knew that on the day they had the better group of players and the better coach team, and the result was a 3-0 win. So Tottenham have got a little bit of a narrative about them as well in the way they go about things. So if Liverpool can avoid sort of falling foul of that their sort of storyline, if you like, with Postecoglou's, unrelenting commitment to attacking football, and I think Liverpool have got a good chance of doing a number, like you say.
Certainly. Let's just touch on a couple more things before we wrap this up. The first one being the Carabao Cup on Tuesday night. Was it Tuesday? Wednesday night. I mean, the world's greatest cup competition. Liverpool have won again. There was a school of thought that some people wanted Liverpool to get knocked out on Wednesday. I will never buy into that. I understand that it can be incredibly difficult for a small squad to get through 4 competitions, but I always think winning is a habit, and the more competitions and more games that you win, it breeds more. So I thought it was really positive that they could make that many changes. I know Southampton are in a bit of a mess, but they dominated the game. Southampton had a little spell, didn't they? But it looked like Liverpool had a lot of fringe players that stepped up and put in positive performances. You know, you would have no issue, would you, now, with Endo coming into the team or Morton coming into the team?
Yeah,
So.
Loads of positives. You know, Chiesa gets 45, Jota gets however long he got, was it half an hour? Simicast returns. Trent Alexander-Arnold with his first senior start. Harvey Elliott starts his first game of the season and scores. Núñez scores. Kelleher, unbelievable save in the second half. Loads of positives to take from it, really, and Endo, like you say. So, yeah, I mean, at 2-0, I thought Liverpool were firmly in control here, and this is going to be relatively straightforward. It's never quite as straightforward as you think, is it, with Liverpool? And they are not holding on, but certainly kept honest right to the end against, you know, a struggling Southampton without a manager. But, Liverpool are in the semi-final and were able to rest 5-6, you know, of their regular starters. So, all things considered, a great night, and sets up a 2-leg now with Spurs, doesn't it? And Liverpool now, they haven't lost a League Cup game for 2 years, because they are the holders, of course. And the last time they got beat, I think, was when City beat them at the Etihad just after the World Cup. So that's going back, like I say, 2 years. So you know, they're in the last 4 now. Why not give it everything and try and win it?
Yeah, exactly.
I get the argument for bigger fish to fry,
yeah.
but they're going to have to play 2 games either way now, aren't they, against Spurs? So, you know, they might as well try and play 3.
And the flip side of it is in the Champions League, they have got a couple of games there, albeit they didn't play those games last season, but they do now. But they can change a team there a bit more, can't they? And you think Accrington, the FA Cup, is almost like complete full second string, isn't it? So I think you're right. I think you go for it. And let's face it, you look at what I know Arteta won the FA Cup early doors, but you look at what he's sort of enduring now, where people are saying, well, they've made progress, but they're not winning trophies. I think for Slot, if he can get a trophy out the way early doors, it's such a big thing for a manager.
Yeah.
You know, especially at a club like Liverpool, which is, you know, it's a club there to win trophies, isn't it? And Klopp got to the cup finals in his first year. So.
Yeah, no, you are right. But while you're saying that, I'm also thinking I'm not that bothered about the FA Cup this season.
Oh, no.
I don't think Liverpool are going to go out to Accrington, because I think that will be a major embarrassment and something that will get thrown at them and levelled at them for the rest of the season at the very least. But if they were to be drawn away to a Premier League club in the 4th round and then just quietly exited, I think that would ultimately do Liverpool the world of good for the rest of the season. And obviously, when you're out the FA Cup, you have your weekends off, so that could be priceless in terms of keeping players fit. Because Chelsea haven't got the type of schedule that Liverpool have got, because they're in the Europa League with a B team, aren't they? Conference League, that's what I meant. And they're not, basically, all of their squad is not even just the big guns who are getting rested. They've got pretty much all of their players able to sit those games out, so they're only playing once a week. And managers always talk about how important that is. And you know, we've seen it with Liverpool, didn't we? It was 2013-14, when you're only playing once a week and you get a bit of momentum behind you, you know, you can sort of launch a little bit of a unexpected title charge. Yeah.
And the other thing I would say for Chelsea is that the deeper they get into that competition, and chances are they will get quite deep into that competition.
If they don't win it, then
and it still takes the manager away, doesn't it? You know, you don't get those full training weeks that like Klopp used to sort of wish for, didn't they? You know, he still has to go away, and they were in Kazakhstan, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, -11.
So it still must disrupt in a way. It perhaps doesn't take Cole Palmer, you know, away, but it will still take the manager. So I don't necessarily think that's the absolute godsend that some people are making it out to be. I think that might still have an effect on Chelsea later in the season. The one good thing, well, not the one good thing, but one of the other good things that we found out as well on Wednesday night was that Carabao do a beer.
Do they?
Which was on the little sidelines. Said the Carabao beer, which they've launched. So 5 St Paul Square, Liverpool L39SJ. Any Carabao
Can we get them on as a
representative?
sponsor?
Well, just
alongside Nord.
You know, Nord and Carabao teaming up. Right, let's pick our teams and make some predictions. I mean, you've alluded to a couple of positions already, but Alisson in goal. your back four, Robertson or Tsimikas? What do you
Robertson,
reckon?
I think, yeah, it's going through a little bit of a difficult spell, isn't he? But no one will be more critical of him, of Saturday than himself. And I'm backing him. I think he's still got credits in the bank. So he starts. Yeah, Gomez and Van Dijk. Still no nearer to Konate, are we? We have had an update from Arne Slot today, but it wasn't necessarily he's close, he's in contention or anything like that. So Gomez, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Konate injury, by the way, has been outside of Liverpool circles. They won't realise what impact that had, because he was a big part of how well they were playing. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Tsimikas had a couple more games under his belt, whether he would have started him here. But I think with the ferocious pace that Spurs will throw at Liverpool, don't necessarily think it's right for his first start. What's he play? Did he play 45 the other night?
Yeah.
So I suspect he'll go with Robertson. And like you, I think so experienced. I know he's going through a tough spell, but I think he just needs a bit more help. I think around him, Slot will want players to come in and cover for him and help. So that will be important. So I'm saying back four. Midfield, I think there's an argument here to be made about your three. No, not Frendo. For Gravenberch, Jones and Szoboszlai midfield.
Oh, okay. And leave McAllister.
Leave McAllister out, which is tough. But I don't know. I think Jones has played very well. You don't leave Gravenberch out, and I think Szoboszlai has to play. So probably McAllister pips Jones.
Szoboszlai will be important to leading the press, getting about the pitch, getting about the back four, putting them under the sort of pressure that we saw happen to them last night, where it was panic stations. Yeah. The goalkeeper, Fraser Forster, is not necessarily a modern type of goalkeeper, is he? Where he's very comfortable on the ball and Harry's taking it in. So Gravenberch will be important to that, I think. So yeah, he starts for me. Do you know what? I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, let's. McAllister hasn't played too much. He could use the minutes maybe, but Jones is in form, and Gravenberch has been probably player of the season.
So you going with that three?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's quite big, and you can bring McAllister on. Front three, I suppose the biggest. I mean, like you said before, Jota over Núñez, I think feels right. He looked so sharp the other night, didn't he, Jota, when he came on against Fulham, and I just. Someone's made a good point. Núñez has to play against that high line. It probably does suit Núñez.
That was going to be my point. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's quite as unrelentingly high as it was last season, but he does like to push them up, doesn't he? Without Van de Ven's recovery pace, it's difficult for them to execute that as well as they'd like to do, and Núñez could have a bit of a field day there. I seem to remember Núñez causing all kinds of problems when he started off the left a couple of years back. Set up Salah for one of the goals.
I don't see Slot ever starting him off the left.
No, but I think he's sort of made the point of having two players for every position, hasn't he? He seems very reluctant to try Gakpo through the middle, so he's just as unlikely to play Núñez off the left. Yeah, I think Jota will start, and then it's just a case of does he go with Gakpo or Diaz, and I wouldn't be mad about either, really. I'll go with Diaz on this occasion, but could easily be Gakpo.
Diaz, obviously, with the goal ruled out last season, but I remember him playing right there, and I just think a bit more pace to get him behind than Gakpo, but obviously they'd have Gakpo and Núñez then to appear from the bench and maybe cause a bit of chaos late in the game. So
good to have those options in it.
Yeah. I mean,
make all the difference.
You look at the bench and it's looking stronger all the time, isn't it? So they'll have them three.
There's only Bradley and Konate now who were injured. Yeah, Konate's the only one who starts when everyone's fit. So yeah, after a difficult few weeks with the injuries piling up, they've eased, haven't they? Yeah. Almost out of nowhere.
Yeah, such a mud again, Gorsty. But I hope that they do continue to ease. Give us your prediction then. You're confident?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go with 2-1 to Liverpool. I just think if Liverpool can really get about Spurs, I think we might see some more sort of haywire defending. Yeah. Even though we mentioned the surprisingly decent defensive record, it's going to be patched up. They've only just played Thursday night. The goalkeeper looked like he was in a world of trouble, Fraser Forster, last night. So yeah, I'll go with 2-1 to Liverpool. 2-0, and then they'll pinch one back, and then Liverpool will hold on.
So I think you've convinced me. I think going into this pod, I was a bit I was leaning towards 2-2. Slightly fearful of Spurs' sudden ability to score quite a lot of goals. I still found it weird that the same team who lost 1-0 home to Ipswich earlier this season, and what was the one they dropped? They beat City 4-0, and then what was the following game? That might have been Ipswich, but it felt like there was another one.
I think it was Ipswich.
They struggled, but
the 10th, aren't they?
Yeah.
So just having a bit of a middling season.
Yeah. The Tottenham are one of those teams where wherever they're in the table, I'm just tempted to not think of them as a 10th place team.
Yeah.
I think of them as like a 6th sort of place team, but Liverpool should have enough. I'm going to say 3-2. Think there'll be goals. And like you, I wonder how topsy-turvy it will be in terms of will Liverpool go ahead, will they? But I think there'll be goals and Liverpool will do enough.
Just before we sign off, do you like Ange Postecoglou?
I don't mind him. Yeah, I mean, he's one of those ones I think said earlier. I think that he's probably got a side to him that isn't that nice.
It's jovial.
Yeah, and I think the word mate does a lot of work for him. But yeah, I think he's all right. You know, it stares at his shoes a lot. And I hope he's staring at his shoes.
He will be staring the hole through that floor Sunday night.
But I think he's all right. I wouldn't. Yeah. Don't know.
I'm undecided on him.
Yeah.
Thought he was a little bit of a breath of fresh air at first, and then I'm not. Then I wasn't sure. Then I flipped back. Yeah, sort of. I mean, he's honest. Everything he says in the press conferences is sort of noteworthy. So, yeah, don't mind him. Undecided.
Yeah. I think I should be back. Are you working Monday?
No.
So I don't know. I'll be back on Monday. But before I do go, just in case, a very happy Christmas to all of our listeners. Thank you for your support throughout the year. One Christmas present you can't say contracts for Liverpool. What would it be?
A brand new holding midfielder to give Fragen Granberg some real quality competition. Yeah. Or maybe even going alongside them. Yeah, I think I'll go along with that. Yeah, that would be very nice. Let us know what Christmas present you buy Liverpool, and no one saying contracts because we all take that as read. But thank you so much. However you celebrate, Merry Christmas. Have a lovely time, and I'll be back on Monday to look back on Spurs and look ahead to Boxing Day against Leicester City in the evening game. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you, Ghosty, and thank you for your time today. Ta-ra.